Hello, and let's see. Are we going? Are we good? Are we live? All right.
Hey, are you looking
there's
for
an
real
ad.
news
They
that
won't
doesn't
show
push
me
any
an
false
ad. How do I
narratives?
say that? Well, there we go. Looks like we're going. Hello, and welcome to live programming here at the More Freedom Foundation. Today, we are going to be discussing Saudi Arabia and WeWork. It's interesting because over the past week, I'll describe this in more detail, but over the past week, the business press worldwide has been transfixed by the sort of implosion or explosion of this company called WeWork. And they've done a really good job of tracing this back to Softbank, the Japanese sort of investment bank. Maybe that's not the right term, but anyway, the entity in Japan run by a charismatic leader who has funded WeWork and a whole bunch of other of these things. But what they aren't doing is following it one step back to Saudi Arabia. I mean, sure, people mention it occasionally, but it's not as much of a focus as I believe it should be. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. Is I'm going to be sort of centering this Saudi Arabia in this WeWork story the way that I believe it should be and hasn't been done quite yet. And it's also a much bigger story than just WeWork. And I think it's got ramifications for how we fund tech companies, the US economy, the world economy, a whole bunch. And it's also got very serious ramifications for the Saudi Arabian state itself. So that's what we're going to get into today. It's pretty exciting, I think. That's what we're going to do. You might have noticed there are live chats on the side of your sort of YouTube window. And you can, interact with other folks who are watching this video. I encourage you to do that. Say anything you want about me, my beard, my background, whatever. Just, be as insulting as you want to me. But I please ask you to not be insulting of each other. Keep a civil dialogue going with each other. We have folks from all over the world and all over the ideological spectrum who show up for these things. Just be civil to each other. Again, you can be as mean as you want to me. If I see in the corner of my eye that someone's being super disruptive, I will just boot you off of the chat. So please don't do that. Also, I'm going to blather for probably 45 minutes or so on this topic, and then I will do a probably 45-minute or so Q&A session. And at that point, I'm just going to interact directly with the chat. So if you've asked me a question, like while I'm doing the presentation, please ask me that question again, because I'm not going to be able to scroll back and look up at what has gone before. I don't have that mental bandwidth. All right, so let's talk about what has happened. Over the past week, there's a company called WeWork that was a private company. That's a really important distinction, the distinction between public and private companies. A public company is valued by the market. It's on, an exchange. Everybody sort of, tries to decide together what it's worth. It's got shares that are sold publicly. When a company is private, things are a lot more up in the air. They're a lot more namby-pamby. They're not really, they're sort of shielded from the market. And all of the complexity and regulatory barriers that you have when you are a public company. That means that you can pretty much just say your company is worth whatever. And your company is worth whatever your investors are willing to spend to say that it's worth this much. So over the past year, there have been a series of really shaky IPOs. They're called initial public offerings. This is when